Howdy folks, and welcome back to making a weird little Fakemon region. Now the past two episodes were pretty simple. I basically showed you all a bunch of pre-drawn monsters, explained a little bit of them, didn't go too much into detail, but still. However, those episodes were just to kind of get some ideas out the way, because I already drew them, I didn't really want to redraw them again. So I just wanted to explain them, get them out of the way. That's what those first two episodes were. If you missed them, well, you know, surely you know how to go and watch other videos at this point. But still, this episode is different, however. I suppose similar to other Fakemon type videos, I'm going to be showing you the full process of creating them and drawing them and explaining them as we go along. Instead of just showing you the block finished product, I'm going to be showing you the process of making that finished product. Okay? Okay. So after recording the first two videos, I took a little step back and decided to really think about what I wanted the main theme of this Fakemon region to be. Obviously the theme I was going for would be cartoony, but I still wanted a more unifying theme to band all these weird little monsters together. After a little thought, I had an idea. Evolution! Not the Pokemon kind of evolution, as in the real life kind of evolution. The idea that over thousands of years, one species can split off into 700 types of species, which is incredible to think about. The concept that at some point, every single living organism on this planet was once just a single speck of congealed organic mass is kind of extraordinary to me. And more so, it's really cool to think how every animal you see at one point all shared a similar relative. The fact that a cat and a dog were at one point the same type of animal. That's mad! The fact that every single animal alive is alive because it changed to suit its habitat. Again, it's pretty cool. So that's what I wanted to kind of use to combine all these monsters together. The fact that they specifically evolved all of their typings and niches and all that specifically was for survival in their respective habitats. And you might think, well, that's not too different to regular Pokemon. For example, bug Pokemon are always going to be found in forests, presumably because they evolved in that scenario. Which, yeah, totally, but at the same time, I kind of want to take that a little step further, in the sense of give more thought, expand on it, instead of just saying, well, it's a bug type, of course it's going to be forest. Give it a reason specifically why it evolved in that forest in the first place, if that makes sense. Regardless, so these first three episodes, continuing going forward, are going to be of me making some Fakemon, based on certain types, what I could imagine being in the same environment. Starting with bug types. Bugs in real life, although arguably terrifying in some cases, are really interesting animals. They're easily the most diverse, and although I've already shown two species of bug types, Considae and Caterpillar, in this series, for this one I've decided to go with two new species of bug types, to what specifically aid in this new idea of concept, what I've got, with every creature having a purpose in its environment. And when I say insects what help the environment around it, the first thing you're going to probably think about is bees. According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way a bee should be able to fly. Is that even true? I don't know. It was said in a movie once. Now, I shouldn't really need to explain why bees are important. They pollinate flowers, which helps them reproduce, which helps, you know, vegetables and flowers grow to feed us and other animals. So, pretty important. And the other bug I wanted to make a Fakemon based around is an incredibly smart insect, which, again, you probably already thought of, ants. Now, the reason I decided on ants and bees is, well, there's several reasons why. The first being, ants and bees are actually very closely related. Fun fact, I didn't know this until recently, but ants and bees both evolved from wasps, making bees and ants pretty much cousins. Plus the fact that ants and bees are both colony bugs. They don't try and survive on their own or fight other males to secure their own genes. They're very unique in the sense of they don't fight for their own survival, they fight for their queen's survival. Apparently, ants and bees single-handedly made Charles Darwin question his own theory of evolution, which is slightly mad. And the last two connections with bees and ants, what secured me making these Fakemon, are two types of ants. The honeypot ant and the grasscutter ant. Now, honey ants and bees, of course there's going to be a relation there. Honeypot ants basically just gorge themselves on food to the point where their rear ends just swell up with all that nutrients or whatever, and they go back to, you know, feed their colonies. Fair enough. And leafcutter ants. Did I say grasscutter ants earlier? I meant leafcutter ants, regardless. Anywho, now this species of ants, as you may have guessed, cut leaves. It's not to eat the leaves though, it's to take them back to their, you know, den, and they grow a type of fungus on it. These ants have cultivated their own type of crop, which is the mold what grows on the leaves. They've literally domesticated a type of fungus over thousands of years. That's kind of mental to think. So, you know, next time you see an ant in your back garden, just think that some ants are smarter than, I would say, a relative portion of the human population. But that's not a topic for this type of video. So the reason I wanted to use that inspiration into this bee ant Fakemon design is because, well, bees are known mainly for their honey, so the whole farming kind of aspect, it all gets mixed up in there. I like the idea of there being some symbiotic relationship where the ants gather resources, the bees make the honey, and then the ants can cultivate that honey to make more food, if that makes sense. Because, considering it's meant to be a Fakemon region, there's going to be a lot of monster fighting, so I realised what better way to signify Fakemon being smart than by not fighting and working together. So, enough chitter-chatter, let's get on to the actual drawing, the Fakemon, starting with the honey ant inspired mon. So the idea I wanted with the ants to be was strong workers, basically, as most ants we've come to know are worker ants. I believe the term is drone, but don't quote me on that. I'm not that smart. But yeah, I like the idea of these guys being the ones to, you know, prowl around. I guess the idea would be that they would eat berries and flowers, and I guess their bodies, they'd have organs to, like, secrete the honey into their weird abdomen pot they've got at the back. A little bit gross, but that's nature. I also like the idea that since, you know, they're ants, so they'll have 6 legs, I like the idea that if it gets too big, they need their 2 back legs to just hold up the pot, make sure it doesn't spill or anything, because I guess it could spill. I was also trying to find a balance between obviously being based on a real-life animal, but also having some cartoony aspects to it. You know, the main force, I guess, is that it's a cartoon world, but it's a realistic cartoon world in the sense of there's laws in that world what they still have to abide to. So I hope I struck a good balance. I'm definitely down for changing literally any design I do, because I'm not going to be the guy to say my work's perfect. I'll definitely admit, especially later on in the bee Fakemon designs, that there's definitely some things what could be worth changing, and if you have any ideas, feel free to drop a comment and let me know. I'd rather you didn't just comment saying how terrible it looks, because although you're free to an opinion, I'd rather you at least try and help it make it better. But anyway, so the colours of this thing, they're slightly blue. I was talking to a friend at the time of drawing this one, and I literally said, what colour should I make it? He said blue. The ant is blue. Plus, since it's a more darker, calmer colour, I think it strikes a nice balance, because the bee Fakemon are very bright yellows and oranges. Speaking of their relationship to the bees, I'm still not sure whether or not I want to make them the same family, or just 2 coexisting separate families will work together. I could just as easily make it so whenever you breed a bee, the egg could rather hatch into a male ant or a female bee. The male staying in the egg longer so it hatches as an actual bee, whilst the females hatch a lot quicker as larvae. So that could be why the ants are a lot more bigger and stronger. They're meant to help protect the bees, which are the females, which are needed to obviously keep the lineage going. As I'm not 100% sure on this, I could be slightly wrong, but I believe one of the main reasons ants and bees work in colonies is because, well, males produce asexually, in the sense of if an ant lays an egg, if it gets fertilized, it'll hatch to a female. If not, it'll hatch to a regular male. Which again is kind of mad. Meaning the main reason why ants do help the queen is because, well, they can't reproduce on their own anyway, because they don't have enough genes to pass down. So, you know, you're alive, you're 50% your mum, 50% your dad. Ants, I don't know how it works. I think it's like they're only one. I guess that's why they don't fight other males to protect their genes, because, well, they got no genes to protect. That's why they work for the queen, because it's the queen's genes what are really going down. So that's a bit of real life knowledge to you. So I wasn't sure whether to develop that into these species where, well, yeah, the ants can't reproduce on their own, so they need to protect the bees so the bees can reproduce and keep their species alive, or if I should just make them 2 separate species what have grown and adapted to working together. I'm still not sure. If you have any ideas, again, feel free to comment. And I implore you to do your own research, not only because it's incredibly fascinating, to a nerdy loser like me at least, but also because I'm not smart enough to explain all of this to you. I'm sure I've got a few things wrong. So before you go and tell your friends, did you know that male ants don't reproduce on their own or whatever, do a bit of Google and search, just for your own sake. So boom! This is Carino, the honey ant Fakemon. The reason it's called Carino is because, well, since honeypot ants are most commonly found in Mexico, I wanted to give them a Spanish-inspired name. And honey in Spanish is, I think, pronounced carino. I think. I don't know if I'm over-pronouncing that or under-pronouncing that. Either way, the idea that it carries honey, carry, no, don't know why I rolled that R that time, but still, I thought that was a cute little name, and it'll make a lot more sense with its evolution. Oh, that's right, we got evolutions this time. I didn't include any on the first episodes, but this time, we do. We've got the first ant evolution, well, the only ant evolution. The ant only evolves once. And by evolution, I don't mean the real-life evolution of thousands of years. In this Fakemon context, evolution means a quick metamorphosis. The way I've explained it in my universe is experience being this life force, what your body obtains when you beat up other animals. And when your body has too much experience that it can't contain itself, its body, it mutates and metamorphoses into a much grander body what can handle the more experience. It'll make more sense if you actually know Pokemon and how all that works. If not, it's probably very confusing. Either way, it's just a metamorphosis to help the Pokemon in battle. So, as I started thinking of ideas for this evolution, my first idea was warrior. Because now this idea that, if these ants are going back and forth carrying honey, I like the idea that they have to prove their worth to the queen before evolving. Because I believe in real life, the way a queen bee gets elected a queen bee is by getting fed some royal jelly as a baby, what allows her body to grow into a much bigger queen. So I like the idea that she has this ability to make other ants or other workers in her colony also grow to serve as better protectors. So once an ant has proved themselves to the queen, the ant will give them a special type of jelly what makes them grow in size and turn into an ant warrior. Plus, it's a real life thing, not the whole once an ant has proved themselves, they get to be a warrior, at least to my knowledge. But there are types of dimorphism in ants what will protect other ants, such as when ants go foraging to get, more food for the nest, there will be giant, much more bulkier ants with massive heads and abdomens, what are more suited for battle, what will go alongside them to protect them. So I like the idea that these won't only just protect the queen, they'll also protect other ants going out to gather food, They're guards, they're ant guards, basically. And since that slightly moved away from the whole honey idea, I like the idea that, since ants are incredibly intelligent, they craft their own honey spear sort of thing, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, the main idea for this monster was massive, scary, you do not want to screw around with this ant in real life sort of thing. Mainly because this bug is 6'8". And for reference, Carino, the smaller one, I can imagine, since it's on all fours, I can imagine like the size of a dog, maybe, like 3 feet tall, maybe. So yeah, giant ants, very big ants. Do not worry though, I like to think that since they are very intelligent, I've said that so many times now, I like the idea that if you're just a human walking by, similar to regular ants I guess, that if they do not see you as a threat, they will not attack you, but if you do go for them, they will not hesitate to quiet you, so to speak. Admittedly, I struggled on the colours with this one a little bit, as I like the idea that the special jelly it eats to evolve into a soldier ant turns it into a like a poison kind of bug or something, as the honey it's gathered in its abdomen kind of stifles up into this acidic spray what helps it defend other ants or something. But using it kind of made it look a bit too saturated, and I tried to make the colours different as well. It didn't work out. I tweaked it a little bit though. You might notice I tweaked the first ant as well. When I finish these drawings, my friends are a huge help in. I will send it to them, basically just ask for feedback and, do some little tweaks and changes accordingly, and that's what I do. A fun fact I discovered was, whilst looking on colours for real life blue ants to perhaps get some inspiration on how to colour it better, I found this beautiful specimen. Look at that! It's kind of scary, kind of beautiful. I love it. It's a real life blue ant, and what kind of makes it better is that it's not an actual ant. It's a wasp. So I guess that kind of plays into the whole ant-bee related kind of thing, maybe. I thought that was really cool, at least. And speaking of wasps, I was thinking about including wasps in this whole line. I haven't included one in this episode, although I haven't drawn a queen yet. because once I finished the bees and the ants, I realised neither of them could realistically suit the position of the leader. And since wasps are basically the predecessors of all wasps, ants, and bees, I like the idea that ants perhaps play a bigger role in being the species what will be the queen. So if anything, it's a trio all working together. Maybe, who knows. I feel like wasps do get a bad rap because people say they don't do anything for the environment or whatever. If they didn't, they wouldn't be here, I don't think anyway. I think that's how it works. But still, so if you like what you're seeing, stay tuned for that wasp Fakemon, what will come eventually, because I will be doing more bug types, of course, in the future. So here you go. This is Damien, the giant honey warrior monster thing. So again, using some Spanish words as a name, as it is meant to be inspired by Mexican honey ants. The name is it means of honey. I like the idea that, you know, he's proven himself to be the queen. He is now one of the honey, of the hive, you know, Damien. Plus, along with his pre-evolution, Carino, the full name is Carino Damien, which kind of sounds like carry home the meal, which is what they all do. The smaller ants go out and collect the food, whilst the bigger ants protect them and ensure that it gets back safely. I thought that was kind of cute. Although these two monsters, well, the first one might be cute. I like the second one, terrifying giant ant monster. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I struggle on this shape a lot, but I feel like it could be better still, but for what he is, I'm happy with the result. Going from slightly cool ant monsters to now cute little bee ones. I suppose similar with most bug Fakemon, especially early game, which I don't even know if this will be. This is a larvae, which, you know, larvae, Fakemon, and Pokemon in general have a pattern of the first stage being the larvae, the second being them in a cocoon, and then the third being the hatched, you know, it's rather a moth or butterfly, or in this case, a bee, because bees also have larvae. So do ants. I'm pretty sure every insect does, in fact. But yeah, there's not too much to say about this one. I bet you're happy to hear that. But it is just meant to be a cute little bee larvae. I did like the idea that, because being a plain larvae, it would have been a bit of a boring shape. So I like the idea of it having a little honey pot. When it shares out honey. It's a friendly little bee larvae, you know? Plus, I like the idea that it's a bit of a spoiled rich kid, but not in the bad way. In the sense of, the larvae isn't the one going out every single day to get the honey, so since it isn't, you know, it doesn't mind giving out free honey. That's what it does, you know? He's just a spoiled little kid who doesn't know any better, but at least he's still cheerful. I don't know why I made him so cheerful, though. It is a bit of a simple face. I think the main reason was because, you know, off the heels of the two Antmon, they're both kind of, you know, they're not cheerful. So I guess I made this line way more cheerful to counterbalance it. Originally, I wasn't going to include a little spike at the end because I thought it would look way too similar to another Pokemon called Weedle. But I realised without one, it did kind of look a little bit boring. So I like the idea of it, you know, since it is a bee after all, it should have a little stinger. But instead, it's made out of honey, of course. I like the idea that that's its main method of defense, that if it's feeling threatened, it will use it. Because it's not a horn per se, it's like, it's one of those squeezy icing tubes where it spits honey out of it, sort of thing. So if it feels threatened, it'll spit honey out at its foes and get them stuck, which, you know, gives them plenty of time for them to wiggle away, but realistically they don't need it because they're very rarely allowed to leave the hive. Again, that whole spoiled rich kid. They're not allowed to leave the hive, they can't be trusted yet. So that's it, that's larvae, larva, and bee. Larvae. Simple. Now let's move on to its evolution. I'm going to say now, for this one and the final evolution, I struggled on a hell of a lot. So I'm happy with the final designs, but like I keep mentioning, if you do have any better ideas, feel free to let me know, because, oh boy. So, this evolution was just meant to be a cocoon, basically, but I like the idea that it's a honey cocoon. I like the idea that the first evolution collects honey and plonks it on its head until it's too big to the point where the honey just engulfs the bee larvae, and the bee just sits in it, eating honey until it's big enough to hatch out as a bee. It's kind of like how real-life bee larvae work, as, you know, baby bees are pretty much deposited into little chambers and constantly fed. So, like the whole spoiled rich kid thing where it got fed too much, where it's now just a lazy slob, just laying about in a massive blob of honey. The original idea was its head was like popping out the top, and the rest of its body was submerged in the just slob of honey, where it was just laying about. It couldn't be bothered to do anything else. But I really struggled with that shape, so luckily I changed it. And I think the new design what I came up with was a lot better. The main reason I struggled with the shape was because I liked the idea that the blob of honey wasn't just a literal blob, but it was its own beehive. It looked like a beehive, because I guess the original idea was it would build its own honey beehive to the point where it became a beehive, essentially. I guess that was the idea. But I'm kind of glad I moved away from that, but still. It wasn't until I finished the blob of honey, and I was testing out things where I like the idea of there is the door to the beehive, but instead of the head of the larvae just popping out, he's dragging himself whilst the rest of his body is in that schlob of honey. That way, I like the idea that he's slowly breaking out of that spoilt rich kid where, well, he was so spoilt that he's overfed himself where he's stuck in this massive glob of honey, but now he's got to drag himself, he's paying the price for it, so he's learning to work again, which gets him ready for the final evolution, which is a worker bee. So I like the idea of he is slowly starting to get used to working now. He's moving himself slowly on a massive track of honey. I also decided to give him a really long lickety tongue because, well, bees and butterflies have a proboscis. That's the name. It's basically a long curly tongue what they jab into the flowers and take up the nectar. I believe moths used to do that with fruit. I mean, I think some still do, where they jab it into birds' eyes and suck their tears out. So that's a fun little morbid fact about moths. So yeah, I like the idea that he's now got a long lickety tongue what he's using to... Because I guess he's not really fully leaving the hive. He's out around it, I guess, you know, just licking up all the leftover honey because, well, no one's feeding him now because everyone's trying to get him to work for it. So that's why he's dragging his own cocoon about, licking all the little bits of honey he can find, you know. He's screwed himself over for being spoiled. That's, you know, that's the kind of moral of the story, I guess. Still happy, though. I guess, in hindsight, I should have made him look a bit more tired or something because he's not used to the workload. But still, if I was to change it, I don't know, I'd maybe make it slight... Because at this point, I didn't know what the third evolution would be like, so I didn't know how much to change of him. So I guess, if I was to redesign it, I'd kind of make it look a bit more like a link between the first and second evolution. Because at this point, it just kind of looks like... the first evolution just stuck in honey, instead of a gateway between the first and third. But, you know, live and learn, I suppose. Either way, that was Hakuni, or Hakuni, a mix between cocoon and honey. Hakuni. Hakuni. Simple. So now we've got the final evolution, what is a bee. And I struggled to hell making a first design. I had so many different ideas of what it could end up being. And the final design, I'm very happy with, but I don't know if I could have done better. I feel like I could have. I don't know what was wrong with me today, or at least the time I drew it, but still, I guess I was having an off day, but still, I'm happy with the end result. I kept struggling on its wings, and even now looking at the final design, it looks a little bit cluttered. That's definitely the biggest criticism I've got from this, because I tried to include it having... I tried to still try and include that honey pot motif. I feel like I didn't... Like, one of the ideas I had for the design were where its rear end would have been a honey pot with the stinger, you know, coming out of it. I couldn't get that to work, but either way, I just kind of made it more of a... I guess the kind of a mix between a butterfly and a bee, which I think that adds more to the cuteness. But still, I had a lot working with here because I struggled on the wings, as I just said, because, well, they looked rather too generic or too cluttered. I think the design I finished looks passable, I guess. Still. Then I tried to add 6 legs because, well, the bee and larvae had... I guess the idea was the larvae had 6 little nublets and 2 flippers. The 2 flippers evolving into the wings, whilst the 3 nubs evolving into the 3 legs. The 3 pairs of legs, I should say. But again, that kind of looks a little too cluttered, but I tried my best. I'm not going to keep kicking myself unless you think of any better ideas, which I'm sure we can figure something up together. I guess the main change is that I made its proboscis, instead of a tongue, an actual nose. I just thought that looked really cute. Plus, I wanted to include a big old happy smile while still having the proboscis still be a main part of it. I guess he's a bit of like an elephant trunk as well now. But still, so yes, this is Sting Bee, as in Sting Bee. Simple. But yeah, so this was a spoiled rich kid what got tossed out and told to work, and instead of just moping about it, that's exactly what they did. They got to work. I guess she's, if I'm making them all the same family, but still, they all got to work, so now they're also honey gatherers along with the ants. Instead of just eating all the food all the ants bring home, they decide to work with them and use their wings to help them out, and they, you know, they go for higher up flowers, I suppose, is their kind of gimmick. I like the idea that their noses are constantly, they got like dripping honey on them because that's what they're gathering, and their stinger is similar to the ants where they collect all the nectar and everything, and if they eat fruit and everything, their organs kind of ooze out the honey out of the spike, what again they still use to protect themselves and now the other ants what they go out with. So yeah, I like the little story these little guys have, and my favourite thing is, if you look at the first evolutions of these, Larvae, Carino, and another bug type, Caterpillar, I love the idea that you can definitely see key similarities between all three of them. Again, given this idea that they all evolved to fill out similar niches, and I really like that. I hope you enjoy that too. And furthermore, I hope you enjoy these designs. I'm looking at the time now, and I've spent half an hour rambling about these things. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry it took this long. I hope at least the designs were worth it. The one what I'm definitely wanting to change the most is probably Sting Bee, even if it is just colour-wise, because I really like it, but at the same time I feel like a lot could change about it. The two ants I'm really proud of, but again, if you've got any ideas if you want to do any adaptations, or if you've got any ideas for new Fakemon in general, I'm excited to hear them, and who knows, there's never a bad idea. I mean, have you seen these? But yeah, so I guess the habitat these guys will be in would be a, I would imagine a forest or a lush jungle, and I'm leaning towards the more lush jungle because, well, more possibilities for more Fakemon to make. Speaking of which, next episode, well, we've done the bottom of the food chain, I guess you could say, with working bugs. Maybe we could work on some flying types, what would prey on these bugs, or perhaps some grass types, what the bugs also help work with to help pollinate them. Who knows? Or if you've got any ideas, let me know. I'm very easily manipulated. Woohoo! But still, I hope you learn some fun stuff about bees and ants, because I learnt a hell of a lot doing research for this video. But it's fun, I'm excited to do more. And furthermore, I hope you like these designs. Which ones would you catch? Which ones would you leave? Which ones would you make love with? I don't really care what you want to do with them. Just tell me, please. Regardless, folks, if you got to the end of this, I love you so much, because that's like 28 minutes of your day. Wow. Sorry. But still, thank you all so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, or if you're off to bed, have the sweetest of dreams, and I will see you all in a bit. Toodaloo, and bye! God.